know my name.
Now that we have covered the quests of the DLC, we can explore the character herself, Shale. This is where the real meat of the DLC lies. The quests were good, but I feel as if they were on their own, this DLC would be a net negative. However, with Shale, the Stone Prisoner is a huge positive. I'm going to be breaking down this video into two sections. The first is a gameplay analysis, and the second is a character analysis. Shale is, in my opinion, the best example of a DLC character BioWare has ever released, or just in general. I'll explain more what I mean soon, but I feel like the main reason for this is because the Stone Prisoner was a very early example of Day 1 DLC. It was a big deal when people discovered that Shale was already in the game files behind a paywall. She was created during the same development process as the base game, so compared to many other DLC characters, I think she had the most put into her overall. The reason I say she is the best DLC character is because she has an entirely unique build and playstyle that allows her to fill any gap in a party, as well as solve several in-game problems in the base game, particularly with that of the warrior class. First, her armor is a great example of simple but effective. I don't have this problem, but I know several other people had the issue with party inventory management, which is why the other two games have much simpler versions of this. So boom! Here's a character with only two slots, a attack and defense slot, who is designed to be meta. Sorry, pupper. Fire or spirit crystals are the way to go in my opinion, as most damage is likely going to be from spirit magic or fire. The stat boosts these crystals give are really good too. Probably better than most armors give in the game, even the ones that are very expensive. Now, while the armor is good, let's go into where Shale really shines, her abilities. Shale has 4 different ability trees that are each give her buffs based on what you need from her. This effectively means she's the most versatile warrior in the game. Now before I go on to the trees, keep in mind I'm playing on Nightmare difficulty, so when I give these examples, plan accordingly as I'm going to get really meta and technical, and if you're not playing on harder Nightmare, it's probably not as relevant as I'm making it. So first up, the tree I'm most familiar with is Pulverizing Blows. This is the go-to DPS tree in my opinion. Shale gains increased attack damage, which goes up even more as you level up the tree up. Slam is the first ability you get and is one of the highest single target spells in the game, and one of the only 2 spells that guarantees knockback on ogres and revenants. Quake is the ultimate AoE bomb. It has massive damage, AoE range, and a stun. The problem is all of this applies to your party as well, so make sure to have them run for their lives first. Final Blow is frustrating. It summons all of Shale's stamina into an attack. Unlike Slam though, you can miss, as it's essentially just a more damaging basic. If you do miss, you only lose the initial stamina cost, but if you hit, you lose all your stamina for what is effectively a more damaging Slam, with the same knockback properties. Overall, this tree is pretty good. It's essentially a more utility-oriented, two-handed tree, as every move offers a stun or knockback. I give this skill tree 4 squash pigeons out of 5. Next up, we have the Rock Mastery tree, which is the one I put into my two-handed rogue character, so I have a bit more footage this time. This tree is a bit odd. On activation, Shale gains massive missile deflection, so he can dodge arrows and certain spells easier, more ranged spell damage, and less aggro at the cost of a reduction to armor. The rest of the party also gains a higher ranged critical chance. The move Shale gets is Rock Throw, which is basically a ranged slam, giving about the same damage and knockback. Rock Barrage, which is weird, it's an AoE like Blizzard, but the damage is infrequent. Sometimes it looks like it hits and sometimes it misses. The damage goes off of Shale's strength, and to be honest, the only way I can see it being used is if you have no other party members around the enemies. If they get caught in this, they are very likely to die, so it's hard to recommend this ability. I saved the best for last though. Earthen Grasp is an AoE root that petrifies all enemies in a radius for 10 seconds, which may as well be 10 years in Dragon Age time. This spell even works on higher ranked enemies, and it's terrific based on strength and reliability. Overall, this skill tree is honestly kinda bad. Despite what I said about Earthen Grasp, in my opinion, Missile Deflection is just not too useful, and there's only a handful of times I can see it being useful. The range critical chance is a nice buff, but it's only useful for archers. Honestly, Liliana or your Warden should have plenty of cunning buffs already at their disposal that will give them plenty of good crits. The only saving grace of this ability is Earthen Grasp, but I'd say just go Pulverizing Blows if you want a DPS Shale. This gets 2.5 Stomp Pigeons out of 5, just because Earthen Grasp is really awesome. The next tree, Stoneheart, is every tank's wet dream. On activation, it gives armor elemental resistance that stacks with your crystals, and at final ranks, health regen. The moves Shale gets in this form are Bellow, which is an AoE stun that makes enemies target her, Stone Roar, which chooses one enemy to target, Shale, and Regen Burst, which causes an AoE attack that stuns and damages enemies. There's not a lot to say about this form other than it's really amazing for tanks. If you want Shale to be a pure tank, then this is the ability tree to go for. Stoneheart receives 4 Stomp Pigeons out of 5. The final skill tree, and in my opinion the best skill tree, is Stone Aura. This skill is used to give a semi-unique role for a warrior, the support role. Stone Aura freezes Shale in place, making her unable to move. This is pretty cruel considering that she did this for 30 years, but that's beside the point. The aura at level 1 gives allies bonuses to attack, defense, and health regen, at the cost of defense reduction for Shale. Shale's abilities in this tree all passively buff this aura. Hidden reserves give bonuses to armor, health regen, and spell power to the party. Renewed Assault allows Shale to resist spells in this form, and the party gains attack, critical chance, and armor pen. Enemies entering the aura are also now slowed and have penalties to attack and defense. The final ability, Supernatural Resilience, gives bonus health regen, spell damage, and makes the party resist hostile spells. This Stone Aura is god tier when it's maxed out. Your party gaining max health regen and resisting spells in addition to all the damage buffs is crazy to ignore. The added bonus is that this tree is the only thing in the game that replaces Win as a healer. In fact, Stone Aura is arguably better than Spirit here in a lot of regards. So take this with a grain of salt, but I recently played through the Deep Road section simultaneously with 2 different characters, in addition to different party members and on Nightmare. I use this as an example because Deep Roads is often considered the longest and hardest slog in the game. Now for my archer, I had Morrigan, Ogren, and Shale with Stone Aura. Except for Morrigan having a heal spell, the only HP regen I had to use was Stone Aura, except for maybe 1 or 2 bosses, and that heal spell was mostly used to keep Shale alive during Stone Aura. In contrast, my dual-wielding rogue, who had Win instead of Shale, I used almost every health potion I had on me by the end. Now yes, my dual wielder had a more dangerous playstyle, but still the results of this spell are crazy. Now yes, a big con is the playstyle makes Shale boring as she can't move or do anything in this spell, and it's annoying to remember to unequip it at the end of fights, so that she can move again. However, you still have 3 of her party members to frequently control, and the buffs are worth the cons. This ability tree gets 5 Stomp Pigeons out of 5. Now, let's move on to part 2, the character. Shale is a character that truly has no mask. She is upfront about whatever is on her mind, to anyone, no matter what.
Would it prefer mage well past her prime don't mind the sagging bits?
You have an odd way of requesting answers to your questions.
No matter what. She has absolutely no social graces, and there's a very valid reason for this. Shale hasn't had a personality in hundreds of years. See, every golem is forged with a control rod. These control rods don't simply control the golem's movements, they override their entire self to be loyal to their users. This is why every golem is completely expressionless when we fight them in the Deep Roads. The reason Shale is so different is because of the destruction of her control rod. Once she awoke, she found herself in an odd crossroads. She still seems to maintain some of her strong-willed warrior personality, which is likely why she gets along with Sten.
It has been pleasant fighting at the Kunari's side.
I feel the same. You are a remarkable construct, Kadan. A warrior to be feared.
No more than the Kunari, surely. The way it strikes down its foes, marvelous.
I smile each time you roar a battle cry, knowing our foes tremble.
I could watch you fight all day long. The skill you display, the form, how the light plays on its muscles. I mean, yes, well done with the fighting.
You as well.
Still a great ship. However, that personality is only a whisper, as it happened so long ago, and most importantly, in a different body. Shale constantly references how she is a golem, and how superior she is to fleshy creatures.
Good for it. I am sure that to other creatures as soft and weak as itself, that would be perfectly obvious.
This isn't because she believes she is superior to everyone, but rather she uses this to compensate for being different and living in an entirely new body. Shale, with the exception of Keratin, is the only one of her kind, and she likely still feels out of place in her body, even if she doesn't quite remember why she feels this way. She still uses sarcasm to make the best out of her situation. One example of that is her crystals, which are not at all natural. They were augmented and experimented by Wilhelm against her will, but she makes the most of them by calling them accessories.
I like to think of them as accessories. Why not? I don't get to wear clothing and other adornments like the rest of you creatures after all. Wilhelm had hoped to turn me into a battery of mana, something he could tap at will. He searched far and wide to collect what crystals he could and then added them. It is not an unpleasant sensation.
This isn't the only alteration Wilhelm made, as he also chiseled Shale down to better fit in his house, which is why Shale is noticeably smaller than standard golems. Fun fact, this was a development decision, as traveling with Shale, she wouldn't always fit through the doorways, so they decided to make her a smaller model than a standard golem. Back to Wilhelm, however, his poor treatment and use of Shale like a household appliance is what led to her distaste of humans. As before the Warden, Wilhelm was her only interaction with a human. She'll be grossed out, annoyed at any human function, and even has a label basically for everyone else in the party.
The painted elf, the bard, the swamp witch, the elder mage.
Overall, her opinion on most of the other party is neutral or negative, with two exceptions: Sten, who we already covered, and Wynn. Shale appreciates Wynn's knowledge and worldly view, as well as her general care and concern of Shale.
And is the mage the same afterwards as the mage was before?
No, I have never met such a person, but no, they are changed forever.
I understand. Thank you for the answer, wise one.
This is why post-game, Shale travels with Wynn north to Deventer and other circles to find out information on reversing her state of being a golem. This is canonical, as it's covered in a future book, Dragon Age Asunder. Before I wrap up with Shale's relation with the Warden, a few side facts. First, Shale has a bird thing, and she doesn't like it being referred to as a bird thing.
It is not a thing. It is a perfectly reasonable reaction to being constantly pestered. I was helpless to react. Those foolish villagers would spread birdseed near me, drawing the birds because they thought having birds perch on me was quaint. Quaint! If there hadn't been the occasional kind soul to scour me clean, I don't care to discuss this anymore.
This is one of the easiest ways to lose massive approval of Shale. She cannot be persuaded or changed. Even after the base game, she will still feel just as bloodthirsty towards them. Another fact is she is one of the oldest characters in the game, fighting in both the First Blight and the Ferelden Orlesian War.
I saw a golem like you once back when I was fighting in the army with Marek many years ago.
Good for it.
Could you be the same creature? You were more servile then, the pet of a mage in Arl Rendorn's employ.
Do I strike it as servile?
Not at all. Perhaps I'm mistaken. I would no doubt remember such sarcasm.
Then we're in agreement.
This war, in fact, was the reason Wilhelm, as a mage, was allowed freedom from the circle. Wilhelm distinguished himself thanks in large part to Shale. So we can thank Shale for not having to learn Orlesian and Origins, even if she doesn't remember it. Now, the first conversation we have with Shale is probably the most memorable introduction to a companion we have in-game. She honestly just goes with you, not out of a sense of duty or interest, but only because of a pure apathetic, why not? Immediately after bringing her along, Shale voices her vote of no confidence in the Warden's mission. However, she doesn't leave. I can't explain why other than, like Sten, despite having no faith in success, the Warden's mission is an honorable one in Shale's eyes.
Oh, that. Merely reflecting on the hopeless nature of the task in front of it. The most likely outcome is that it and its companions will become a stain on some rock for the Darkspawn to tread upon. I shall be moved to a single tear by the tragedy.
Over time, she grows to have, to her surprise, a respect for another person. That's because the Warden grows to respect her, something that hasn't happened for as long as Shale can remember. I always found it cute that Shale asks the Warden if he comes from superior stock, because there's no way normal humans can be this kind and honorable to her.
Surely it must come from some superior lineage, yes? Some breed of flesh creature that has decided to elevate its genetic stock above its natural shortcomings? Then that must be it. My experience with dwarves is limited, but obviously I need to encounter more of them. I would appreciate if it didn't spread around that I said anything. Humans might start to get the wrong idea. They might start thinking their race is not completely hopeless. It is quite welcome. Now, let us crush something into a fine paste before it starts to think I've gone all soft. Perish the thought.
This respect can turn to friendship, and you earn enough respect from Shale to lose your title of being called It. Something Shale doesn't seem to do for anyone else save the Grey Warden. And that's a really great honor, even if it's really simple.
It has occurred to me that I have been... Excuse me. This is not easy. It occurs to me that I have been less than charitable with it since it reanimated me. I have come to realize that it has been good to me. You have been good to me, even though you had no control rod to enforce obedience. I have never had one before, so I don't know how to thank you for being, you know. Exactly so. I followed you expecting to find answers to my questions, but I think I have found something better.
I think this final moment, in addition to her sarcasm and unique playstyle, is what has won the hearts of many Dragon Age veterans, and why Shale has always been, for the most part, loved by the community. I'll end with a few more funny dialogues from Shale, so enjoy.
So I take it that the Swamp Witch and the Grey Warden are, intimate?
I am hoping that is not a reference to Alistair.
Because it believes I'm an oblivious moron.
Anything is possible. As to the original question, is there a reason you ask?
I'm simply curious as to whether or not it bewitched the Grey Warden.
I have no need to force anything from men.
Oh, my apologies then. I was about to offer my congratulations for a task accomplished.
And not intended as a backhanded compliment at all, yes?
Not at all. I'm the soul of politeness.
Ah, you mean him. I'm surprised you would notice such things.
I am made of rock. This does not make me dense.
I suppose not.
Does the sister not see a problem with serving two masters?
Ignoring the serving bit, I'll assume you mean the maker. I entered the chantry as a lay sister, but I never took vows. Even had I, the Chantry doesn't prohibit two people from coming together in love.
I was told that the sister left behind the service of the Maker to journey here.
You never really leave the Maker, not in your heart.
That seems like an argument for infidelity.
You are very catty for a walking statue, you know that?
It has been mentioned. That is less appealing. Would it consider birds to be its equal as well?
Birds? Birds are but animals. Enlightenment does not await them.
Excellent. That sounds very promising.
Thank you all so much for joining me on this 3-part journey of Shale and the Stone Prisoner DLC. I haven't done anything like this before, but I hope you got some entertainment and some lore knowledge out of this. And I hope you have a new perspective on Dragon Age's first ever downloadable content. I will catch you all next time. Thank you all so much for watching.